Tech Park. It is my great pleasure to welcome you this morning on the territory of the Sofia Tech Park and to launch today's event. For us as a team that has been working quite actively in the past one and a half years for building the supercomputer on the territory of Bulgaria, this event is of key importance. We have gone a long way, we have come a long way, and there is still a long way ahead of us, and I hope this is part of the future of Bulgaria. I am passing over now to Mr. Petar Statev, who is one of the persons who worked hardest on this event. He is going to moderate today's event and help you understand the scale of this project that we have invested so much efforts in. Dear Commissioner Gabriel, dear Minister, Professor Denkov, Deputy Minister Kiriankov, Deputy Mayor Barbalov, dear Mr. Schlesinger, CEO of Atos, Czech Republic, Mr. Cancera, Jean-Pierre Cancera, one of the leading experts globally in the area of supercomputers. Welcome to our important event. I believe in the importance of this event because this is not just an event to mark the launching, the commissioning of the supercomputer. This machine is an essential element in our national system, supporting innovations and competitiveness and supporting R&D. Therefore, today's event is of key importance because despite the pandemic, despite the economic and political changes globally, we continue to stick to our plan to ensure good environment for competitiveness of our R&D and businesses. Before we continue, I am tempted to show you a small video that can give you an idea what happened over the past 1 year, because the building of this complex system was done in record time.
Суперкомпютрите са средство за прогрес и високотехнологично предимство, водещо до развитие на икономика на знанието с висока добавена стойност, икономика, насочена към по-качествения и пълноценен живот на хората, към опазване на околната среда и планетата. Те са ключ за решаване на жизнено важни за човечеството проблеми и задачи във всички области на науката. Българският petascale суперкомпютър Discoverer е един от 8-те суперкомпютъра на Европейския съюз, част от мрежата на EuroHPC, чиято цел е да доизгради и развие технологичната мощ на Европа. Той се намира на територията на София Тех Парк, а зад реализирането му стоят над 15 години експертиза, опит и визия на български специалисти и организации. Главна задача на Discoverer е с изчислителната си мощ да подпомага развитието на науката и бизнеса в България, на Балканите и в Югоизточна Европа.
Имаме възможност да работим с технология на бъдещето.
Ставайки комисар по цифрова икономика и общество през 2017, за мен беше ясно, че нямаме повече време за губене.
В този проект на практика България беше единствената държава, която трябваше за изключително кратко време да изгради суперкомпютърен център от нула. Българските специалисти и българската среда е абсолютно готова да изпълнява проекти на световно ниво.
Една от нашите основни задачи е да създадем високотехнологична среда, която да подпомогне иновациите.
Икономиката е успешна и перспективна само когато се основава на знанието.
Живеем в свят, в който данните са навсякъде, скоростта, с която се развиват новите технологии, е невероятно голяма. Суперкомпютъра е нашия допълнителен шанс да подкрепим своите стартиращи предприятия, младите ни хора да имат реализация в страната си.
Приложенията на суперкомпютъра в икономиката са практически навсякъде. Симулиране, разработка на нови материали, молекули, лекарства.
Квантовата физика, биоинформатиката, автомотив индустриите.
Така нареченият бекплейн на тази машина има скорост на комуникацията 200 гигабита в секунда. Благодарение на изключително високата плътност на електрониката, комплицираната система за охлаждане и най-добрата мрежа за свързване между отделните компоненти, този компютър достига над 6 петафлопа изчислителна мощност, което само по себе си вече ни постави в първите 100 в световен мащаб.
Компютрите или суперкомпютрите могат да видят закономерности в огромни масиви от данни, а когато знаем тези закономерности, съответно може да правим много по-правилни модели, да предсказваме какво ще се случи. Нещо, което ме привлече в проекта на Discoverer, е възможността да се направят връзки между бизнеса и науката в взаимоизгоден начин.
Екипът на Discoverer има една основна цел – да превърне този прецизен инструмент в основа, катализатор на прогреса. И за да бъдем малко
And to be more precise, our supercomputer Discoverer ranks 91st globally in the global ranking of supercomputers. Each year, twice a year, there is a ranking of the computing power of all machines, so our computer ranks 91st by that. It's important to acknowledge what brought us to today's achievement. In the basis of the development of the supercomputers in Europe, we have as a driving force our commissioner, Maria Gabriel, who upon joining the Commission, provoked the discussion that Europe is lagging behind its main competitors, the Asian countries and the US, and thanks to her capability of motivating and convincing the European Commission and the Parliament, in the midst of a planning period, they voted to allocate billions to set up this modern and powerful network of supercomputers that are publicly accessible in Europe, and this gives us a chance to become much more competitive in the global economy. Of course, we need to mention here that the art of building supercomputers was not born yesterday. We have a good school, we have good traditions, and the design of our supercomputer was made by the team of Professor Stoyan Markov, together with experts from the Strategic Applications Institute. We had numerous experts participating or taking part in designing the supercomputer. Sofia Tech Park played a key role. The minute the competition was announced and the contractor was selected, we started with on a green field, and only in 1 year we managed to build a very modern building. They also designed one of the most modern cooling systems in industrial terms. And after that, our partners from Atos that were selected in the tender to develop the machine also fought against time and fought against the circumstances, because the minute we started building the machine, the pandemic was already raging in the world, and because of that, supplies were delayed, chips were missing, etc. But I don't have to go into detail about it because you have all witnessed it. It's all well when it ends well, and I'm happy that we had partners such as Atos that worked together with the Sofia Tech Park team to install the machine in time. Starting today, this machine will be gradually commissioned. As of today, we have a working tool. That's important, but what's more important is to share with you that we do have ideas where to go to from now on. This machine is a good supporting factor in the national R&D system and national innovation system. As of tomorrow, we are going to start leasing or providing this machine for use in a very transparent manner, but also we will start working by planning the main challenges for the coming 5-10 years. We would like to add graphic accelerators because in working with the industry, we realized that the majority of our clients are interested in having neuron networks. So we need these graphic accelerators added up to this machine. New tasks are coming that require huge computing power, and thank God we have the quantum computers in the horizon. So in the next year, we are going to start training people on how to work with quantum calculating machines. Supercomputers are not standard computers. They're not standard smart devices. And in order to be able to use them well, you need training. And once again, I would like to stress that the European Commission has once again extended their helping hand, and they are launching a project for upskilling people with bachelor and master degrees throughout Europe on how to use supercomputers. I believe this will be one of the breakthrough moments, both in science and in businesses. Of course, I needn't forget mentioning the fact that the European Commission has enabled us to add yet another tool to help us become an equal competitor in the global markets. There will be an upcoming competition for digital hubs. So Sofia Tech Park and its ecosystem we have on our territory, clusters, investment funds, labs for prototyping. So Sofia Tech Park is ready to apply for the new tendering procedure and will be using our new tool to advance in the R&D market. Without further ado, I would like to now pass over to Commissioner Gabriel to share with us the European vision for the future development.
Thank you, Minister, Deputy Minister, Deputy Mayor, Professor Markov, Mr. Statev, dear partners, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure for me to be together with you. Yes, this is a supercomputer of world rating with Bulgarian knowledge. Bulgarian vision for the technological sovereignty of Europe has gathered us today. This is a world-class supercomputer is the outcome of strenuous work. This is a hop in our ability, a leap in our ability to work with data. What you used to do for 365 days with Discoverer, now we can do it for less than 20. And most importantly, it gives the strategic directions for work so that the capacity of Discoverer be beneficial for Bulgaria, its talent, its startups, its industry. And this is how we are going to enforce Europe's technological sovereignty. This is why I'm so proud that today, once again, we have evidence that Bulgaria is the digital innovation center in Europe. Let me emphasize three things. Firstly, today's event is more than launching Discovery. This is an event which gives me the occasion to say thanks. Thanks to Roberto Viola, General Director, DG Connect. Back in 2017, in the middle of a programming period, they stood behind this initiative to position Europe as a leader in high productive computing. Let me say thanks to Professor Markov as well for his persistence, and he never yielded before hardship. Let me quote Professor Markov, some are saying what they will do, and we're doing it. Let me say thanks to the Bulgarian government as well. We had terrific support. Back in 2018, the Bulgarian government, Mr. Borisov was the Prime Minister, stood behind us, and I'm very proud that the Minister and the Deputy Minister are together with us, and Professor Denkov. This is a very strong message that we are sending out, that we can meet the challenges of science. Thanks to Mr. Statev and the whole Tech Park team, researchers, local authorities. Once again, with our common effort, we can position Bulgaria as a regional leader. Besides, Discoverer is not only thankfulness, not only appreciation of work well done, but this also points to the digital transition of Bulgaria and how ideas can materialize. Let us remember that Discoverer has been developing in parallel with two other initiatives. The Excellence Center, Information IT Excellence Center, the leading organization is the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, started back in 2018, and the GATE project, this is AI, and big data. Here we see the investment in human capital. This was, we had the shared moment in the Sofia University. These three initiatives running together, this is the foundation of Bulgaria's digital transition. They certainly do not exhaust it. And here I come to the third important aspect. What are the future challenges? I'd like to outline three of them. The first one is, the key one is, we shouldn't be left with a machine, the potential of which we fail to use fully. And this is why I'll be talking about applications, the possible applications of discovery. This is the key here is the link with science and research. Let's not forget that in 21st century, supercomputers are an indispensable assistant of science and research. We know how vast the opportunities, the capacity of the supercomputer is, from medicine to energy production to transport. Let me also remind you that even now, in a situation of the pandemic, one of the first projects that we funded under Horizon 2020, as early as January 2020, was Escalate for Cov. This is 70 billion worth of interaction, 15 places, thousands of billions of operations which are unachievable with sheer human capacities. But let me give an example we should be proud of as Bulgarians. Let's remember the 1970s, 1980s. This is the Bulgarian discovery in medicine. That's the historical Bulgarian discovery. Professor Ivan Mitev and the discovery of the sixth heartbeat. That was our big achievement to the 20th century. We know how important it is to know what happens to cardiovascular diseases and congenital defects. And 30 years later, 40 years later, these the scientific research that use the supercomputers and use this Bulgarian discovery helps us to fight the reasons for being the second place in mortality, in terms of mortality in Europe. This is an example how the supercomputer can give us benefits to us, to our children, to our health systems. Apart from that, it will have applications not only in medicine, and this is where the big challenge is. I would like to see the network of European supercomputers to work in close cooperation with European science and research. First step was made back in May in Portugal when we organized the first meeting of petascale computers. And they made a commitment together with science to have those scientific areas identified where, thanks to the knowledge and to the speed of work, that can allow us to make progress and to give benefit to society at large. Second big challenge is education. Indeed, if you have shortage of specialists having the skills to work with supercomputers, we wouldn't be able to achieve the full benefit of what they can bring us. Yes, the big goal is European master's degree for high computing, high power computing. I would be happy if European university alliances, these are the European universities of the future, they will be the carriers of this idea, and we will work in that direction. The third big challenge is close cooperation with industry in order to create an innovation ecosystem. We're at the shoulder of a big wave of innovation, combining digital with hardware components. We're very strong in various industrial sectors. Europe is a scientific leader more than ever. These need to act together, to interact. This is how I see the supercomputer as the missing link between laboratories, research, and as a way to mark our strategic goals that bring value added and as a key tool to achieve them. This is what I wanted to share with you. Yes, we are here again to share our joy of this common work. Well done. Once again, my congratulations to everybody who contributed. And let us be able to argue that Bulgaria, with its potential to be the regional innovation leader, with discovery, it has sped up its motion towards this target. And with clear strategic directions and with everybody's effort, and with this supercomputer now, we'll be able to do so as to support our talent, the business community, and again, this is the result of our shared work. I wish the team hard work and inspiration. You have our support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gabriel. You mentioned something extremely important, namely the need to cooperate, to ensure cooperation based on the significant public investments in scientific infrastructure. As of the moment our team started working on the conceptual project for discovery, at the same time we started contacting the Ministry of Health and the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences because additional supplementing infrastructures have been developed, and our ambition is to not allow overlapping of public investments. We are not so rich as to afford anything like that. And now we are engaged in very positive dialogue with the two leading research universities in Bulgaria, Sofia University and the Technical University, and also with the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences to ensure that these public investments are used to the best interest of society and economy. Passing over to Professor Denkov now. You have the floor. Professor Denkov, Minister of Science and Education. Good morning. A lot was said already, but I will reiterate some of the things, putting them in a slightly different context, probably for the benefit of the broader audience. An initiative like this one is quite expensive, but it's not a luxury. It's an expensive necessity because it contributes to Bulgaria becoming a modern nation that develops and deploys new technologies. Therefore, economists say that the successful nations are the nations that can design and deploy cutting-edge technologies. Historically, Bulgaria did have such traditions, but we had lost them over the passage of time. Back in 2014, when we started discussing the European investments in R&D infrastructure, back then, a lot of the things that we're taking for granted today were just a dream of the scientists, a dream of the researchers. Very often, these dreams were not supported even, but today they have become a reality. Commissioner Gabriel mentioned several of them, but we have also others. For instance, the excellent centers in medicine. Without them, this supercomputer would have one application less. The Mechatronics Center, other centers that will need the supercomputer. The Bulgarian Swiss Institute that is soon to be launched and that will contribute on top of what has been achieved already using European money. We combine knowledge from different areas. We need to be able to combine medical knowledge with the supercomputer knowledge, mechatronics. We need to combine with image processing, etc. So we need to integrate different spheres of knowledge, and supercomputers are one of the tools that can help us achieve that. The third thing I would like to mention was already mentioned by the previous speakers, but I will take a look at it from the standpoint of our ministry. This supercomputer would have been just an expensive piece of hardware unless we prepare the people to work with it. Only 7 years ago, we only had a dream of having technical vocational schools that are well respected. Back in my young years, the technical schools, the technical vocational schools, were schools with very outstanding reputation, and then they deteriorated. But now, certain technical schools, such as the technical vocational school under the Technical University in Sofia, is competing with the leading, other leading high schools in the country. So whenever there is a will, there is a way. The STEM Centers program under the program for resilience and sustainability, they will be deployed throughout the country so that children can get prepared for joining the technical universities and becoming the top experts of Europe who will place Bulgaria on the map of Europe in the technical areas of expertise. I believe in that, and I am working for that. Once again, I would like to go back to the recovery and resilience plan. A number of leading schools in Sofia, Varna, Burgas, Pleven, Vidin, Montana will be supported because we want to bring people back to these cities. And this is one of the ways to accelerate the processes that we have been witnessing in Bulgaria for the past years, to bring scientists back to our country because they're interested to work on leading projects here. So this supercomputer will play a role in making Bulgaria one of the most attractive places in Europe to live in. I'm deeply convinced that this is possible, and we are investing efforts to achieve that. Thank you for everything that you do, and in the face of our ministry, you have a partner, and you always will. Thank you, Professor Denkov. You raised a very important topic, namely the fact that Bulgaria has become an innovator in vocational higher education. One leading example of that is the vocational high school under the blanket of the Technical University in Sofia. And the skills acquired at high school level almost equal to the skills acquired from the tertiary level of the educational system. Two funding institutions contributed to this supercomputer. It was EuroHPC and the Bulgarian government. EuroHPC is a European entity that was set up in 2018. It was responsible for the first projects, and now it has been reviewed and will continue to invest in the next projects for future computers. Now I'm going to show you the address by Mr. Anders Jansen, the CEO of EuroHPC. Although he was very much willing to come and attend today, he couldn't because in the afternoon they will have the first physical meeting of the board of EuroHPC.
I'm delighted that this day has come. Since the EuroHPC joint undertaking was established only 3 years ago, It has been amazing to see the speed with which the European Commission, participating countries and private partners have been able to team up to create a unique joint undertaking. The EuroHPC joint undertaking has an innovative and groundbreaking mission: to build a world-class supercomputing ecosystem right here in Europe. Discoverer is a very important milestone towards meeting our objective of making Europe a global leader in high-performance computing. As you've already heard today, Discoverer is a truly remarkable piece of technology. It will significantly increase the computing power currently available in Europe. It will provide HPC services to a wide range of users, both in Bulgaria and in Europe. It will support the development of leading scientific research, support public sector and industrial applications. For example, to support the discovery of new drugs, to better understand molecular interactions, and to facilitate seismic simulation. As well as many other applications in the area of ecology, agriculture, and material design. Discoverer will help further EU's knowledge base in science, technology, artificial intelligence, and high-performance data analytics. Discoverer joins two more EuroHPC petascale supercomputers, Vega in Slovenia and Melexina in Luxembourg, as the first EuroHPC machines to have been inaugurated. A further 5 EuroHPC supercomputers are on the way in Czech Republic, Finland, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. When all 8 EuroHPC supercomputers are online, we can expect a staggering 875 petaflops of computing power to be available to European research and innovation. The next 5 years will see the joint undertaking further increase the overall computing power in Europe, with the acquisition of exascale supercomputers capable of more than 1 billion instructions per second, and with the development of the first supercomputers that will use the properties underlying quantum mechanics. I wish Discoverer and the team who will be working on the system every success for the future. Finally, I'd like to thank the Bulgarian government, Sofia Tech Park and its team, the European Commission, the vendor Atos, as well as my own staff, who have all been instrumental in this significant achievement. Thank you very much.
EuroHPC has done something else which is important. It created the Society of Sites supporting supercomputers in Europe. So it's important if you are in the Czech Republic, in Slovenia, in Luxembourg, Finland, Spain or Italy, they can exchange their best practices and speed up in the global competition instead of reinventing the hot water. Now, it's over to Minister Kyriakov, the Deputy Minister of Economy, and this ministry was very supportive to the project. Mrs. Commissioner, dear colleagues, dear hosts, and fellow travelers, let me represent the Ministry of Economy, its position in terms of this question, which is so important for Bulgaria, our future in innovation. 4 years ago, I gave my modest contribution to the creation of the excellency centers and the competence centers. I think that these centers, their concept, could provide the design of the overall development of our country in that direction. In order to be able to materialize those steps, we need 3 parties to interact. The government, supported by that serious European funding, which will keep coming. This is the academic community and the business community. And these 3 parties for the first time managed to get together back then, and I'm happy to see those centers now in full operation, and I'm happy that they also can offer their product to the market. Nobody doubts the capacity of Bulgarian science, our high schools, our Academy of Sciences. They have capacity to help in this process. But how will this academic product translate into a market force? This is something that there is a lot to wish for still, and we must unite around this idea. Talking about the Ministry of the Economy, with two key programs, we will be able to support this process. You know, this is the Recovery and Resilience Plan. It was handed over to the Commission, and you know, the priorities of the funding, both of grant funding and other financial support mechanisms, they all focus on priority development, competitiveness, new technologies, innovation. The next scheme is going to be the new OPIC program, that's competitiveness, where once again we have the same priorities laid down. So we will be working hard on those priorities. And the leading program is the Innovation Strategy for Intelligence Specialization, known as ISIS, and it will also underpin these processes. Finally, as an economist and as somebody who has been monitoring the development of Bulgarian business for almost 30 years, let me tell you that as a country we have a whole lot of endowments. Nobody will take away this our ability to produce high-quality farming commodities, and the supercomputer can find application in farming as well. Nobody will take away our ability to be a beautiful country with nature and being an attractive destination for tourists. But what we must achieve as society is to affirm Bulgaria as the center of innovation on the Balkans and in southern Europe. I wish fruition to the efforts of everybody who takes part in this process. Once again, the Ministry of Economy is ready to stand behind them in every possible way. Thank you. Thank you, Minister. What a pleasure it is to hand over to Deputy Mayor Doncho Barbalov. And we have many times expressed our thankfulness to Sofia municipality, but you see this northern street being built at the moment, and over the next 3 years we're going to have a metro station, and this will make Sofia Tech Park an even more attractive destination for young people. Thank you. Commissioner Gabriel, Minister, Deputy Minister, my congratulations to Professor Markov, Professor Statev, the whole team who worked on the supercomputer. Several months ago I visited the site. This was just a building being built at the moment. It didn't look like a supercomputer at all, but here we stand today to launch it. This is undoubtedly a success, and this makes Bulgaria the first country on the Balkan Peninsula with supercomputer, and this were among the first 100 supercomputers in the world. Supercomputers have a role to play for science, for business, for the lives of ordinary people, but they can help councils, municipalities in order to do their projections. We need good analysis, good projections for traffic, for climate change, for a whole lot of things, and there's a lot to cooperate with this team over. Discoverer is a wonderful name. And we hopefully will discover a whole lot on this territory of our Sofia municipality. So we are available. We can help. We will help in any possible way. Thank you, Mr. Barbalov. And now let me invite on stage one leading European, and he is one of the authors of the concept of supercomputers, Mr. Jean-Claude Pansera.
Of Atos, which is responsible, I'm sorry, не само води технологии.
Is not only the head of the technology division of Atos, but also he is the chair within EuroHPC, the European initiative to create the next generation of supercomputers.
Good morning, Commissioner Gabriel, Deputy Mayor, Minister, Deputy Minister. It's an honor today to be here in representing Atos. For us, it's very important, and we're very proud of what was done here in collaboration with the different partners, and again, Sofia Tech, obviously the Bulgarian government, the GU, the European organization through the joint undertaking through the GU, the EuroHPC, and all the local organization. And I want to say that, that we are very proud of the achievement. And maybe this picture that you have in front of you is giving, is not giving justice to what it is really, because it's just a picture, and you see, 2 rows with 6 cabinets on each row, so 16 racks, 12 racks, sorry. And that's, maybe you have to go in, open up, and see what it is inside. And I think in the video that you've seen, there are quite some big numbers that maybe you have you may not have paid notice to. Just in this 12 cabinets, you have 144,000 cores, CPUs. So that's a lot of power. The number that was mentioned, 6 petaflop, which is actually 6 million billions of floating point operation per second, every second, 24 hours a day, 364 days a year. And this is something that will be available for research and innovation. Before we go into the more details about this, I want to reiterate and explain, that one of the reasons why we're very proud of to be here today is because with Atos, we are providing this technology, and it's not something that happened, in a matter of a couple of months or weeks. It's something that we've been working on for a long time. We started, first with Bull, that was integrated with Atos in 2004. So this is a result of 17 years of investment in research and development. This system that you see here, besides providing a lot of computing power, and I mentioned, the 6 petaflops, is also quite powerful in the amount of energy that it's using, electricity. Just 1 megawatt to be able to power the system. This 1 megawatt is transformed into calories, into heat that is, that is to be extracted from the system. And this, in turn, is something quite a challenge. The system that you see here, the BullSequana XH2000, is a system that we started developing 4 years ago, and this is the 3rd generation of direct liquid cooling system. Direct liquid cooling meaning that you can extract the heat with very little overhead, a few percent, less than 5% additional energy to remove the heat that is generated through the when you operate the system. And this is quite unique in the world. It was the first, again, this is the 3rd generation. When we started the first one in 2014, it was the first in the world. And this is very efficient, and we are looking forward to do this. And this argument about power efficiency might not be of much relevance if but it is becoming today, especially with the energy crisis that we are facing, and that will be lasting for forever, for a long time for sure. The other thing I want to mention is really to recognize all the effort and the collaboration that was done so far in, of course, building the building itself. And this is something that we didn't take part in, but just providing all the technology and to say that we recognize all the efforts and the way we worked very well together with the Sofia Tech Park. But this is just the beginning of a collaboration. When you visit the computer room, you see that there are still some empty space, and we are looking forward to expand. This system, as it is, already has a lot of capacities in terms of addressing the needs of researchers, of the industry for the development, and in particular through the Center for Competence and the digital hub that was mentioned before. But it has a lot of expansion in going into other areas. I think it was already mentioned that artificial intelligence is a new area which should improve a lot of all these computing efforts, and all this application will benefit from that. Another areas, and this was also mentioned, is related to quantum computing. And there, I know that here in Bulgaria, it's a very important topic, and you have a partnership with Infinity Q, a Canadian company, and this is something that also is a candidate for expansion. We have at Atos a full program which is called QLM, for quantum learning machine, because at the time, it's still a time where people are learning how to use quantum computing, which is an area of expansion for the future, but it's also be the front end of any system. It will be the front end for any computing, quantum computing system that will be available in the future. So with all of this, I think it's important to also mention that this technology is a European technology. And here I want to recognize all the efforts that allowed this at the Commission level. And Madame Maria Gabriel, you were at the front end of that with the creation of the joint undertaking, EuroHPC 1, with the digital launching of the Digital Europe program, which is now funding all the resources that will be implemented with the EuroHPC 2 joint undertaking. So it's really something. I'm more involved in the research and development. I'm not a business or sales guy. And for me, this development of this technology is very important. And the fact that we're able to do it in Europe, and that we are able to gradually increase more and more the amount, the percentage of what European technology is part of this, is really key. I joined Atos Bill more than 20 years ago because I thought that we could do something. And now, with this system and others that are coming, and you mentioned quite a few one already, and more to come, we're very proud of this. But we are looking for more, and we are looking for the Commission to help us with this. Because at the moment, we have to say that the competition is not really symmetrical. This is just a note. But, just to conclude, I would like to say that I'm quite sure that Discover system will hold to the promises of this name, and it will be the key tool for innovation and discoveries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre. Atos
designed the technology, and the question always is, how can you make something accessible in real life? And I have Mr. Vladimir Schlesinger here, who is the CEO of Atos Czech Republic. His team, working together with the Sofia Tech Park team, was able to cope with the challenges of time, with the challenges of the pandemic, and all the other negative aspects of last year, managed to build and launch Discover. You have the floor.
I will not go through all the names, but I just wanted to say a couple of words of why we are here, actually, out of Czech Republic, and why we feel it's important that actually we have found the ways of cooperation, and especially in what I call the golden egg of Atos in our global operations. When we saw that this EuroHPC program is running, and basically out of the eight countries that were selected, 3 of them are coming in our Eastern Europe part. We decided and we agreed that because we are all small countries, we need to cooperate. We need to make sure that that we will find ways how to actually help each other in order to progress and learn from each other. And because we already had an experienced team in Czech Republic through the IT for Innovation installations and some other, we have decided to support Bulgaria, and we have volunteered within Atos that we will be the ones actually bidding for the deal. And I think it was a very, very good decision at the end of the day, because we have learned We have found a great partners in this implementation, and we also are not ending the journey here by the installation, and we believe that we will find ways to further cooperate and make sure that whatever we do, and we have learned in Czech Republic and with the program that is ongoing and running further, Slovenia and Bulgaria, we can actually become stronger and become visible part in the all EuroHPC. When we were signing the contract, and I remember this was somewhere in December, Friday night, 9 o'clock, something like that. Exactly. One of the co-signatures, I think it was the JU partner, said, "Thank you for your flexibility, for your consistency, and for your sense of humor." And which caught my eye, and I remember that because this is exactly what I think has been very important for the whole installation. A year ago, when my team first got here, they sent me a picture, and there was nothing there. There was a plain ground, nothing. A year ago, and you see what has been built in such a short time. And I think it is a fantastic achievement. And all these three words, consistency, flexibility, sense of humor, definitely played part, you know, and especially in these difficult conditions that we are looking at. So from my side, this is a commitment we are going to continue. We are going to fulfill our commitment that we will be helping Bulgaria, the discoverer, to actually find the utilization, connect to the network, share some experience, and connect to the partners in the European network. And just would conclude with a statement that this is not the end. This is the beginning. Jean-Pierre mentioned quantum computing, artificial intelligence. There is a lot to look at, and I would like to wish Petar and the whole team and Bulgaria to really make this thing successful going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vladek. Твърде много говорихме.
We spoke at length about numbers, petaflops, watts, megawatts. But for the larger audience, it is always good to demonstrate something that is important and something that can be achieved with a tool such as the supercomputer to the benefit of society and the grassroots people. I would like to invite now Simeon Stoyanov, who is the Business Development Director of the Discoverer team. He was the first, but he will not be the last example of Bulgarians who are leaders on the European business and scientific arena who decided to come back to Bulgaria in order to create an environment here where the good skills of our young people can flourish and lead to technological advancements. Thank you, dear guests, dear colleagues, dear media representatives. I would like to give you a presentation that contains two main elements. Firstly, how the discovery is going to be used and what are the access rules as per our strategy, and also I will demonstrate by small examples what a computer such a discoverer can do and why is it important for society. The access rules now. Discoverer is a joint infrastructure financed by EuroHPC and by the Bulgarian consortium in a ratio of 35 to 65%, which means that the future resources will be allocated in the same share in the future. A big portion of the resource will be used based on tendering competitive procedures in three main aspects. First of all, eligible will be projects that need huge computing power. The other type of tenders will be the so-called preliminary testing calls, based on which we are going to decide whether the task planned for 1 year ahead is adequate for implementation. So these pre-calls will be important. Also, part of the resources will go against developing future softwares and fine-tuning of the software so that we can ensure that it runs in an optimum way. And 10% will go for the so-called fast-track applications, projects that need big computing power for a short period of time, for instance, to resolve an emergency crisis or similar situations. Managing of tenders will be done by EuroHPC via PRACE, and the PETA consortium will organize its own tenders that will be judged by an international jury. And last but not least, we have another ratio, 80 to 20. Up to 20% of the full resources of the computer can be used for commercial purposes. And the milestone here will be whether the information will be available publicly, the information that is achieved by using the discoverer. Now, several examples. Let us start by the software packages that have been installed on the Discoverer. I have divided them by scientific domains and by application areas. One of the big application areas will be biopharmacy and genetics, genomics, excuse me. 40 to 50 packages have already been installed, and this list may be updated in the future based on the needs. Computational quantum chemistry, another area, molecular dynamics and mesoscale modeling is another area. Here we have the GROMACS package, for instance, the DL poly package. I'll give you an example what has been achieved with them. Computational fluid dynamics is another area of remodeling of data, for instance, for establishing climate change models. And AI is the last but not least area. In view of application areas, we have the so-called in silico drug discoveries for testing the latest stages of the new drugs that have been developed. Also, molecular discovery or structural property analysis. Another important topic is the so-called digital product formulation in the computer. Instead of wasting physical time, you can do that via the computer. And another important example is modeling the climate and evaluating different climate scenarios and different pollution scenarios. Last but not least, it can be used for all kinds of things in machine building, roads construction, bridges construction. We can use the supercomputer for that. And another area are the financial markets, financial market modeling and consumer market modeling. Why do we have so many packages? I mentioned that we have installed 50 packages already. Depending on the type of tasks we need to solve, they have a different time scale and size scale. There are elements that are small scale, such as molecules, and we can compute them very quickly. However, we have other projects, for instance, calculating the climate change, where the time scale is huge, and we have computer programs enabling us to calculate all these issues. What supercomputers supercomputers enable us to do is to calculate the smallest details and have a better predictive capacity. The first brief example is the modeling of surfactant dissolution in water and mesophase formation. This has application in the industry, for instance, cleaning, washing, and the class of molecules that are very interesting are the surfactants. They have two interesting characteristics. They are composed of two elements. One of them is hydrophobic and hydrophilic. The other one is oilphilic. So these structures are called missiles, and one of the big secrets, the so-called micellar water solutions, are used for cleaning because their molecules can easily destroy the oil molecules. And they're used for different drugs as well. When the concentration of these molecules increases, they become cylindric, and in huge concentrations, these cylinders become flat surfaces, the so-called lamellar faces. And the cell membranes are built out of such structures. This is why it is very important to simulate the behavior of these molecules to create new products, to be able to develop new drugs, for instance. Such tasks can be solved by very powerful computers, and this simulation that you will see here is a very long simulation box containing tens of millions of molecules. And in red, we are going to see the heads, and in blue, we are going to see the oil tails of the molecules, and you can see how they interact with one another. This requires huge computing power. You can see over time what happens, how they become cylindric and how they go through the fungus phase. And in the end of the simulation box, you can see the lamelles that I mentioned that are the basis for the cellular walls. This computing power enables us to visualize these processes in such details that we were unable to understand before. So this is key from the applicational standpoint. Discoverer gives us an opportunity to achieve that. If we want to see the so-called fungal phases, we need to put on more details. Going into this part here, the atom and molecule part, this is something that has been done on Discoverer in a preliminary phase. These cylinders are connected and they go into this fungal sponge phase, very similar to the sponges that we have at home and use for cleaning. So we need to terminate it in order to prevent it taking up water, but also we need to make sure that it behaves as a sponge. This depends on the number of pores. These sponges are used at molecular level for ensuring the absorption of drugs in the human organism. This is done using the so-called molecular dynamism. In this case, we have 3 molecules produced that are used in the food industry and the cosmetic industry. This is a simulation done by Discoverer, and you can see the sponge phase here after the molecules have attached to one another, and in details we can study here the sizes and the fluctuation of the molecules, which will enable us to optimize their functions. This is very important from an applied standpoint. This task used 5% of the Discoverer capacity. Indeed, it is very difficult to achieve using a simple computer. So we divide these boxes into smaller boxes, and one server calculates the development of the molecules per box. At each step, a molecule can go from one box to another. So the minute the computation of the first box is complete, we need to ensure exchange of information between the two boxes. And the benchmark call is very important, because if we place very small boxes, that is, we use too much of the resources of the Discoverer, we might fail to accelerate our computation, because this exchange of information will slow us down. This is why it is very important to make sure that the separate parts, the separate servers of the supercomputer communicate between one another very quickly. And to finish off, I would like to offer you a demonstration that is very important, a demonstration of how we can forecast climate change. We can do that, first of all, based on historic data. And here we have data from the past 140 years and how the average temperature of Earth changed over this period. If we want to predict what's going to happen in the coming period, we need to know not only the past, but also the human activities and also the emergencies or unforeseen events that we might have in the future. We need to account for all those in our computation. So you can see what is our understanding of our activity and how it influences the environment. Some of these influences and some of these impacts we understand very well, others not so well. And the supercomputer can help us understand that and understand the end impact, the ultimate effect. At different local levels, these factors can also be different. One of the factors that I would like to discuss is the ozone in the troposphere that contributes to the formation of smog. And smog, we know, is something that affects people with lung diseases. This is a study by an international research association. This was done prior to 2001, and they tried to predict what's going to happen with the Earth if nothing changes. And you can see that we don't have equal changes in temperature in the different regions of the Earth. And if we want to make exact predictions, we need to do them locally. By doing such local predictions, we can generate additional information. One of the factors there is the ozone in the troposphere, and we can calculate what's going to happen with this ozone in the troposphere that is going to impact the temperature movement. We can do that locally in different countries, and we can also predict the number of bad days for people with lung diseases. So this is a good example of how supercomputer can be used efficiently to provide valuable information. When you solve this task on one and the same computer, then you can do it much more efficiently. And this is an example of the impact of the different scenarios with the troposphere ozone. This is the map of Bulgaria, and based on different scenarios, you can see what is the number of bad days for people with lung diseases. We can have a long-term or a short-term forecast, and machines such as Discoverer help us produce such scenarios. Thank you.
Благодаря, господин Стоянов. Симеон открехна завесата.
Mr. Stoyanov has drawn the curtain to show us a number of secretive mechanisms that we could understand, so that both climate change and other important developments be able to mess up with our lives. So the idea of green transformation is not somebody's fad, it's a need, and it doesn't need to only be solved in Brussels, but in only member states and across the world as well. Dear guests, dear partners, media reporters, we are wrapping up our conference, and now the press people might ask questions of our guests. We are running